How do you find love being an introvert and socially awkward? you're you're asking the wrong person, basically. I was one of those people who wanted to be married when I was like 20 years old. I wanted to have my first baby when I was 20 years old because my mom had her first baby at 20 years old. My grandma actually had her first baby at 16, which I realize is way too young, but she had her second one at 18. And so I thought that, if I could be a young mom, then I could like grow up with my child and relate to them more. And, I just thought that you were supposed to be 20 years old when you had your first child. And I'm 36 and I don't have any kids. And I struggle with dating. I don't relate to a lot of the guys that are available. And maybe part of it is like the dating app thing has never really been a fun thing for me. It feels more like torture than anything else. And I think part of the problem for me is that I feel like I'm extremely judgmental of people. I have very high standards and I know exactly what I want. And I'm not to the point yet where I'm ready to compromise those standards. And I don't know how many of them that I really want to compromise. I think another problem for me is that I've gotten very, very comfortable being alone. I like having free time. I like having my own space. I like not having to negotiate with people. It just feels more comfortable. So in order for me to fall in love with somebody, they're going to have to be very special. They're going to have to be somebody who makes my life better than what it is with me being alone. And that's a lot. As far as being socially awkward, I'm very socially awkward. I struggle with people that I don't know. Like, I don't know how to talk to them. And especially when it's a really hot guy that I would really like to talk to, it's like I forget how to speak English and how to put sentences together. And, like I really want to impress them, but then, I can't remember my own name or what I was going to say. the only thing that I can really relate to with this, which is probably a really silly example, but as you can see behind me, I really like the New Kids on the Block a lot. And I like to go to their concerts because they go on tour every other year. And a lot of times I go to meet and greet too. And so those are the type of guys. I mean, I know that they're celebrities and I think that most of them are like really super hot. And so it's like, I want to say something really, really cute to them or like really funny. I want to be like, just, I want to say something that's like really awesome. And so I'll even practice what I'm going to say ahead of time because I can't come up with something on the spot. That's not how my personality works. And so I'm like, okay, I'll figure out what to say ahead of time and then I'll rehearse it so that I can say it perfectly when I get there. And I realize you can't do this with like a lot of people. I mean, unless it's like somebody that you work with or somebody that then, you can kind of figure out something to say. But I'll rehearse it perfectly. I've even like said it to my friends and my niece and like had people critique what I'm going to say. And which I understand is also very awkward, but it's part of how I operate. But what happens is I always get there in the moment. And even though I've met them several times, so like I feel like I shouldn't be starstruck, it's always like there's this one of them that every time I am standing in front of him, instead of just like saying what I want to say and being super cute and charming and funny, which I feel like I can be at certain times, but not in front of him. No, in front of him, I'll say things that aren't even sentences. And he usually looks at me like, what? Like, are you speaking English? And, then it always turns out very bad and awkward. And it's kind of funny, like how bad these things have gone. And the fact that I keep paying to have these types of experiences is even more funny. It's one of those things. It's like, oh my God, this is so bad. It's like really funny, but I don't know how to make it better. So as far as finding love, yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I've tried the dating sites. None of them seem to work. I've honestly talked to a couple of people that are like matchmakers. There's this one company that's called It's Just Lunch that I've thought about trying, but they're like super expensive, and they're like, well, we'll guarantee you like 4 dates for $5,000 over 6 months. And I'm like, 4 dates? Like, what kind of dates are these people? Like, they have to be really good for $5,000 over 6 months. I mean, maybe the problem is I just don't have that kind of money. So I'm not really like their ideal client, I guess. So I don't know, honestly, how you find love. I've asked a lot of other people because I really want to know how you meet people. And a lot of them have these super cute stories. Like, my best friend was married and she got a divorce. And so she had to move out of their house, and she moved into an apartment where she had 3 roommates. And one of her roommates turned out to be the love of her life. And I'm like, ugh, that's disgusting. I can't move in with roommates. I'm not one of those people who can handle roommates. And so, one of my friends, her husband was her high school sweetheart. Obviously, I'm past that stage. My parents have this great story where my mom was working in a cafe, and there was a guy who came in that had like this really nice car. And so my mom made a bet with all of her friends, the other servers, that, to see which one of them could get a date with this guy who had this really nice car. And it turned out to be my dad. So I hear all these really cute stories of people, and I keep thinking that one of these days I'm going to go into Starbucks and meet the love of my life. And I hope that happens. I don't know. Okay. Why is it so difficult for INFJs to find good quality people to be in relationships with? I think it's really difficult to find good quality people just in general. Honestly, I think part of it could be where you're looking. I think part of it is their personality types. Some personality types INFJs get along with really well, and others we have a lot of differences with. And so I think that's part of it. And as far as, dating, like I just said, I feel like apps are like the worst place to find people. And that's just my own personal frustration with dating. I know a lot of people find the perfect significant other on dating apps, but for me, I haven't really had that experience. The best friends that I found have come from like Instagram and my blog and stuff like that, my podcast. And I found a lot of good friends that I've worked with in the past. So who knows, maybe that's where you find the right person to go out with. I haven't yet, but it's possible. I have dated a lot of guys that I've worked with though. So none of those relationships have worked out, but that's where I found people. And I found one guy at church. And my mom keeps suggesting that I go to church on a regular basis, and she thinks that's where I'm going to find the love of my life, but I'm not really sold on churchy guys. The true believers kind of scare me because they're a lot more churchy than I am. And I feel like that's what you run into at church, at least the religion that my parents are anyway. Okay, how can I build a relationship and feel comfortable? Is it harder for INFJs to form connections with people than other Myers-Briggs types? I feel like it is difficult for INFJs to build relationships and to feel comfortable. Part of it is that we have such deep feelings, and a lot of us have been hurt before. We've shared some really important things with other people, and they don't understand how important those things are to us. and it's easy for us to get hurt. We have really deep feelings. We have really deep emotions, and a lot of people aren't that deep. And so maybe they don't even realize that they've hurt us. And it's difficult for us to be vulnerable and to open up to people and to even tell them how badly they've hurt us. So you end up putting up a wall. You end up not wanting to share things with people because you've been hurt in the past. And I think that's why it's difficult. It takes practice being able to share things with people, and it takes somebody who actually cares about you. And sometimes that's difficult to find, right? I have a few friends now who I feel like they really care about me. And when I say something, they listen to what I'm saying. And they repeat back to me what I've said at different times. Like, I know that they're listening because they'll bring up something that I said, 6 months later. And to me, that's kind of, I like it, but I hate it at the same time. It's like, most people don't listen, but then you run into a couple of people who do, and you're like, oh crap. Like, you remembered that thing that I said. Why are you throwing that in my face right now? And so I think it really depends on the person that you're trying to make a connection with, and whether they're really invested in trying to make a connection with you, or they're just there because they're there. Some people really care, and some people, they don't really care. Maybe they're just using you for some type of advantage. And I've realized that it's usually the people that I'm the most interested in who don't care that much about me. And it's usually the people that I overlook who are the people who end up being the best people in my life. I don't know why that is. Maybe I have a bad sense of, like, I get stuck on people though. Like, there's a couple of people even now that I keep thinking, like, our relationship didn't work, our friendship didn't work. And so I want to, like, reconnect with those people. But I have, so far, I'm stopping myself from doing that, because it seems like every time there's been somebody that I really wanted to be friends with, and I've tried to push a friendship, like do whatever I can to make it, to make us be friends, those are always the situations where they end up, like, running away from me, because maybe it's just that I'm too aggressive, or there just really wasn't a connection there at all, and I tried to make there be a connection because I really liked them as people. But those are always the people that are like, it never works, but for some reason I still feel like I want to make it work. I want to keep pushing and figure out if there's a way to make it work. Most of my really good friends though have been people that I think I overlooked in the beginning. One of my really good friends, I was working at this company and they hired this new lady, and I looked at her and went, no, why in the world would you hire this person? Like, I don't get it. And after working with her just like a few days, I think it was barely a week, she was like standoffish and rude and arrogant, and like, she knew exactly what she wanted and nobody was going to tell her anything else. And I just really didn't connect with her. I even went to my boss and I was like, listen, I don't mean to be rude or to overstep my bounds, but I really don't like this person, and I don't think that they're going to work. I think that you should really reconsider this. And my boss was like, really? Why? And I'm like, well, I have several examples here. And she's like, I really thought that you would like that person. And I was like, why? And she goes, well, you guys are so much alike. And I was like, what? Like, you think that I'm like rude and standoffish? You think that I'm super arrogant and that I know exactly what I want? And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, okay, well, I've never saw myself that way, but maybe I am. And so after, obviously the the person stayed on working there. And after a while, I think kind of after that sort of rude awakening for me, I tried to give her more of a chance. And we ended up becoming really, really good friends. And even now, though I haven't worked with her in more than 3 years, we still text each other quite a bit. We used to hang out before the pandemic. Hopefully we will again, but we still text each other a lot. And she's one of those people who has like called me out on some of the worst things, you know, some of the bad things that I've done. And she's one of those people that I know that's like, that will tell me the truth. And it's like, she will tell me the truth as brutal as I tell other people the truth. And very few people are like that. And it's painful, you know, when she tells me like one of these really hard cutting truths, but it's also, it's a really good thing. It's helped me so much to see some things about myself and my personality and the way that I handle things that other people won't tell me. And I appreciate her for doing that. I appreciate her for being so honest. Building a relationship, it depends on the people that you're around. In order to feel comfortable, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to be honest with them too. Those have been the people that I like the most. The people who are willing to call me out on my bullshit and say, you know, you're lying to yourself and you need to stop.
Learn more about your INFJ personality on my podcast, The Quiet Ones. The Quiet Ones is a weekly show where we dive into understanding self-love, depression, anxiety, and so much more from an INFJ perspective. I offer up in-depth coaching and unmatched empathy. Join me for an amazing personal growth experience. The Quiet Ones podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and at thequietonespodcast.com. Hi there! I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm working very hard to produce content that will help you, and I really, really appreciate your support. Also, if you want some more inspiration, check out this video right here.